All right, I've got 10 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get our meeting started. Rhonda, you're here to do our invocation. All right.
Oh, good morning. Another beautiful day in God's country, Madison County, best county in Iowa, right? Proverbs 4 in the Passion says, "Fill your thoughts with my words until they penetrate deep into your spirit. Then as you unwrap my words, they will impart true life and radiant health into every core of your being." Father, thank you for another day. I plead the blood of Jesus over Madison County and those who live and work here. Father, open the eyes of our understanding to know your truth and wisdom, so that your will be done here as it is in heaven, so that we may have the days of heaven on earth as your word says. That as we unwrap your word, Father, those words impart true life and radiant health into the very core of our beings. Thank you for so many great and precious promises that you desire to fulfill in our lives. In the name above all names, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Clifton.
Here.
Fitch.
Here.
Stansel.
Here.
All present. Believe we need to ask for a motion to amend the agenda to include a resolution from the treasurer's office to allow her to sign on the bank accounts. Okay, I have a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
Motion from Heather. Is there a second?
I was second.
I have a second from Diane. All in favor of amending the agenda to include that resolution, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Put a note here so don't forget that resolution. All right.
Where do we want to put it up?
I'm going to do it as I
Just the
basically
first-
F at the bottom of the resolutions
F,
on the first
okay.
page.
Okay.
Okay, anything else this morning before we proceed with the consent agenda? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would make a motion to approve it, but I want to break it out and approve the agenda or the minutes separate.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a motion to approve the consent agenda sans the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Motion carries. All right, Dan, what would you like to do with the minutes?
On the minutes, I want to clarify the statement when we all, the voting on the max levy. You cannot hear Supervisor Stanzel's nay vote, so I think we need to clarify it. You cannot hear it on the tape.
It says it on the minutes.
It says it on the minutes, but you cannot hear it on the tape. So are we taking, I want to clarify that. Are we taking
But it
what
says
the
it on the
minutes-
minutes that you can't hear it on the tape.
it,
says it
well,
right there.
it said,
But it says County Auditor Castor heard
Yes.
Stansel audibly say nay at the meeting.
but you cannot hear it on the tape.
Right.
On the
it's-
audio version. She
Right.
heard it, but the audio version doesn't show it.
Right.
So let's clarify,
But what it
you
says
cannot
here, it
hear
says,
it.
in the recording, all members were heard to vote aye, and there was silence in the nay. After the meeting, Stansel signed the resolution as nay and stated to staff their verbal vote was actually nay. County Auditor Castor heard Stansel audibly say nay at the meeting.
it says,
in the
it
recording.
says you can't hear the nay on the tape.
I know, it says it in the minutes.
I think it's contradictory.
I would suggest we strike the County Auditor's Castor heard Stansel audibly say nay at the meeting. I know what your intention was, Heather.
I do too, I know
I
your
didn't hear a nay.
intention. But if you want transparency, when you listen to the tape, you cannot hear the nay.
It says it right in the minutes that you can't hear it on the tape. And County Auditor Castor heard Stansel audibly say nay at the meeting.
So are we taking what people hear, or why bother to tape it?
I think that witnesses should be, are you saying that Shelley's word is not valuable?
Not at
I didn't
all.
say that at all.
We didn't say
Okay.
that at all.
So what's the issue here?
I would just move to strike that. If you voted nay, that's fine, but you cannot hear it on the audio tape. You
But
cannot.
the minutes say that, Diane, what's the point?
The minutes say that because it was requested to write it that way.
But County Auditor Castor heard Stansel say it, she said it in front of our county attorney. And the county attorney is what asked the minutes to be
I
written this
know,
way.
and I don't agree with it.
Well, I don't see what the issue is, why do you wanna strike it?
Because I think it doesn't seem transparent.
How
I
is it
think-
not transparent?
Because I couldn't hear the nay vote.
I understand that, and I'm gonna speak
A
up
lot
for
of
now.
people couldn't hear the nay vote.
Well,
Some did, some didn't.
some did, some didn't, and that's fine. But we wanna make sure that it doesn't imply that I didn't say nay. And
You
if we
said nay.
strike-
I want
if
that
we say-
clarified.
If we say that Otter Caster heard nay, and we strike that, the remaining makes it sound like I didn't say nay.
Then let's clarify that you said nay. Just add that to the minutes, that you audibly said, or that you said,
It says it right
Yeah,
here.
I,
It sounds
If-
like
if-
you don't want Auditor Caster's word in here.
nah, I don't know
no,
if
that's
it,
not
but
it at
Why?
all. That's not.
we've got bigger fish to fry than.
I think we
Move
should just
on
keep the
and
I know,
minutes
I
as
know
it
what your
is.
intention was. I
Let
didn't
it
hear a
stand.
nay. There was considerable confusion after that. I was like,
So
what?
much.
I understand it.
So-
And going
So-
forward, I will speak up.
You got my good ear.
Yeah.
Diane's got the bad one.
All right, so move to approve the agenda, or
Okay.
the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Now time to enter into a public hearing for the Scarlet Sunset Ridge subdivision. Is there a motion to enter into a public hearing?
So moved.
Motion from Heather. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Diane. All in favor of entering a public hearing at 10:06 a.m. indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are in the public hearing. Ryan, everything's been published as required?
Yes.
Did you receive any written comment?
I did from Madison County Secondary Roads, and I will
We'll
address
address
that.
that? Okay, floor is yours.
Okay. So, current parcel is zoned agricultural, is owned by Dwayne and Diana Scar. They're looking to create a one-lot subdivision here, and that one lot will be 10.57 acres. The current legal use here is that there is no building structures on the property. It's been used for crop production over the last several years. Some history on this: in 2007, the homestead of this particular farm was parceled off as parcel A, and the rest of the farm, and this was sold to Clayton and Ramona Davis in 2007. The remaining 223.97 acres was then sold in 2014 to the current owners, Dwayne and Diana Scar. This tract contains a mixture of pasture ground for livestock production and row crop acres on the higher CSR ground. This particular piece that they're looking to subdivide, none of it falls within the FEMA flood zone area, so we don't have any concern over that. Staff has determined the CSR2 of this area to be a 64 and is not considered prime farm ground per our current county comprehensive plan. The plat is also not within 2 miles of any corporate boundaries, therefore it didn't have to go within consideration of any city council meetings. The access here, there was an application provided for an existing driveway field entrance off of Deer Run Avenue. That was originally as planned for the entrance of this lot. Application had been submitted to the county engineer, and it was recently determined that the current field entrance does not meet site distance requirements or top width requirements per our subdivision ordinance. Therefore, a new entrance must be constructed further to the north to meet those requirements, and I believe the county engineer will work with them in getting that completed. They've got a year to have that done. Let's see. And then the comment that I received from engineer was the marked existing field entrance on the final plat of the subdivision does not meet site distance requirements or top width requirement. The proper application has been made for this entrance. There shall be a newly constructed driveway entrance located north of the existing entrance, In order to meet these requirements, the SCARs will need to obtain an approved driveway permit prior to any building or zoning certificates being issued. As stated on the attorney's opinion, entry number 3, Clayton Davis or his successors have easement across the requested area for a water line from a spring-fed well on the west side of Deer Run Avenue. There's currently a water line across the requested area to serve parcel A, which is owned by Clayton Davis. This will need to be located and left undisturbed pending any construction.
Ryan, do they share the well or the line just goes across it?
The line just goes across. Staff does recommend approval of the request to divide the property as shown on the final plat of Scarlet Sunset Ridge subdivision to create a one lot with any and all stipulations noted prior to recording. The notice stipulation is that I will need an approved driveway permit from the engineer's office before I do record.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
Did anybody wish to comment during the public hearing on this matter? Okay, seeing none, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn the public.
Hello,
Oh, yes.
this is Nancy.
Yes,
Ford,
Nancy.
89 152nd Street. My observation is that we are still not getting commentary from the NRCS or the Soil and Water Conservation Board or the Conservation Board, Madison County Conservation Board, as would seem to be optimal in considering these sorts of projects. I also would only note that the land being removed from the farm is grassland, pasture, and low CSR. That does not necessarily mean it is worthy of taking out of its natural environment. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. For the record, Soil and Water and Conservation Board were notified of this and did not comment. So. All right, any other comment regarding this hearing? If not, can I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing? Motion from Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather to adjourn the public hearing at 10:12 a.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign. Motion carries. All right, now comes the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone from the public wish to comment? If so, raise your hand, we'll call you to the podium. Yes,
Must be my lucky day.
you dropping stuff too?
There's a
Okay.
penny.
Ooh,
I should have put it in my pocket.
heads up or heads down?
It's heads down, I don't think I want it.
Oh, did I? Sorry. Push it back on the floor. Jeff Newman, 1179 220th Street, Winterset, Iowa. Good morning to everyone. I am here to comment on the issue of salary increases for elected county employees. I am speaking today on my behalf and solely on my behalf. As a self-described pragmatist and problem solver, I begin the journey of looking into the pay controversy. I've seen emails, copies of emails, responses to emails, musings, ads, name-calling, and a petition. But my focus was on the facts and root cause of the situation. This entailed an understanding of the process and the structure within that process. Whether you agree or disagree with the process, it's what we have. Sparing all the finer details, the following are my findings. This year's compensation board recommended as much as 20.9% increase for some elected positions. That was an eye-opener. Wow, and an eyebrow raiser. That's a lot. So I asked myself, why so much? Is there a compensation problem? Why and where is the disconnect? What methodology did the compensation board use to recommend such high percentages? Well, I'll answer that. The compensation board polled several counties regarding pay. Perfect. I'd have done the same exact thing myself. Agree wholeheartedly. But The counties polled are 2 to 6 times the population of Madison County. Rhetorically, I ask, does this sound remotely logical? Bingo. Disconnect identified. The resolution seems very simple to me, and what I'm strongly asking the Board of Supervisors to do: reject the current compensation board recommendation and ask them to poll counties with like populations and reevaluate pay recommendations with supporting documentation. This is fair to all concerned parties. I believe my statements to be true and factual. If I do have something incorrect, please feel free to advise. I appreciate you listening. My prayers are with you, and God bless.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Anyone else wish to comment this morning? Yes, Leslie.
Okay, I'll try and speak up this time.
I don't think we have that on. I'm
It's
sorry.
I turned it on.
Did
That's
not.
okay.
It's
Oh,
on.
does it help if I hold it up to
You can hold it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, okay, Leslie Beck, 1996, Hogback Bridge Road, Winterset. Okay, I asked that the petition that I submitted during the max levy hearing 2 weeks ago be entered into public record. And I'm not gonna read the whole thing because I know you guys have heard it. There are now 584 names on the petition, with 546 of those verified by me personally as either being on the voter rolls or owning property in Madison County. As I stated 2 weeks ago, on a separate list, there were 7 teenagers who are not yet 18 that also signed separately. I did not ask or encourage children to sign the petition at any time. Okay, so I want to shift a little bit. I would like to talk now about rights and responsibilities. It is not my responsibility as a taxpayer to prove to the supervisors that my objections during the max levy hearing 2 weeks ago met with their approval. I was simply stating my objection and those of hundreds of other taxpayers in Madison County. I believe that had I stood here alone 2 weeks ago as one citizen, you likely would have accepted my objections as was required by Iowa code, but you probably would have ignored them nevertheless because I am just one person, and that is your right to do so. Instead of speaking 2 weeks ago as one citizen, I was asked to speak for 450. I was likely dismissed because I represented so many of your constituents that did have a different point of view from the boards. I believe that the only way to minimize our voices at times is to marginalize us and what we had to say. Receiving objections does not equate to agreeing with them. When you receive objections, you are allowing us to be part of the process, and you are complying with Iowa code and allowing Americans their First Amendment right to petition their government. Nowhere in either Iowa code or the United States Constitution does it say that our rights are contingent upon whether the government agrees with what we say. It is those rights and positions which are contrary to our government that need protection, not those that are in lockstep agreement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment this morning? So your hand first. Well, or you can go first.
That's about it. That's the numbers you quoted, okay.
Yes.
Kevin Charter, 1411 Warren Avenue.
Can you speak
I'm
up a
here.
little bit?
Pardon me?
Can you speak
You
up?
might help if you hold the microphone like Leslie did.
Everybody catch my name, Kevin Charter, 1411 Warren Avenue. I'm here on behalf of myself this morning as well. I'm concerned about the max tax levy that was approved. I know that's not set in stone, that was just proposed, but I'm not really in favor of that as well. What leads to that is the proposed pay increases. We're looking anywhere, it sounds to me like from what I've seen, anywhere from 7.8 to 38.1% increases across employees. That is substantial. If you were to look at what's in the private sector today, it comes nowhere even close to that. Most of them in the private sector today would probably be thankful to get a 2 to 3% pay increase. How does the taxpayers of Madison County to be taxed to pay those kind of pay increases? The thing of it is, every time that we do a pay increase, somebody has to pay for that. That comes from the employer. Well, for the county, the employer happens to be the people of Madison County. Not our government, the people of Madison County. We're the ones that are gonna be paid for. Each and every one of us pay taxes. And I think that we need to take a serious evaluation before we jump into making these kind of substantial pay increases. I think from what I've seen from some of the existing pay rates, pay salaries, that there's a lot of people around this county, this state, this community that would love to have those kind of salaries or pay raises. So I would ask as you evaluate and move forward with the process of setting these pay raises and salaries, that we align it more with the private sector and not burden our taxpayers with more burden. Because every time we do that, somebody has to ultimately pay for it. I just remember a few years ago, everybody says, oh, if we went to $15 an hour, it would solve everything. Because people would be able to make ends meet. What ultimately happens is the employer has to raise the prices of their service or their product
All right.
to meet those.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right, so you're here next.
My name is Jessica Hobbs. I live at 811 North 11th Avenue Circle in Winterset. I have a naturally projecting voice, so hopefully you all can hear me. I know 2 weeks ago I was accused of attacking the board members because of my volume and intensity. Certainly I was intense knowing that you all had just refused, 2 out of the 3 of you, had just refused to accept this petition signed by hundreds of Madisonians expressing their concerns. So I was quite dismayed. I'll try to keep my volume up though, given that I was thanked from people that were online listening and from those in the room, and it was stated that I was the only one they could actually hear. So I think volume is a good thing, so everybody can participate. So I just want to reiterate the concerns being expressed regarding these proposed county wage increases. I think it's important to note that no one that I'm aware of that has signed this petition has stated in any way that they don't appreciate our county employees. We appreciate the jobs they do. We appreciate the work that they put in for our county to keep us safe and to keep our county government working efficiently. But when times are tough in the private sector, as mentioned, what do we have to do? We have to work smarter, more efficiently, and in sometimes lay off positions. It's concerning when we had a room full of county employees here at this last meeting, taking time away from their job. And in one case, there was somebody that I know that was trying to get help upstairs. And a county employee came running up, whispering, and those employees vacated their posts to come down and participate in this meeting. And I will reiterate, I'm taking time away from my job. I will have to work late tonight to participate in this meeting. But if we are censoring the voices and if we are not listening to the voices of people of Madison County that have concerns about these levels, given that we have some of the highest costs in this state per capita, per county, I think we need to take a good hard look at this. Again, nobody that I've talked to who signed this petition and expressed concern has expressed any lack of appreciation for county employees. No one is asking that they don't get an annual raise. What we're asking for is some reason and some logic behind it, and not an average of 20%. So please, I hope that all of you that are elected by people in this room and throughout this county will hear our voices, reconsider what's being proposed, and be good stewards. Be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Yes.
Hello, I'm Maria Maher, 1660 McBride, Bridgecourt in Winterset. I stand before you regarding the county pay raises. I stand before you for widows and single moms and dads and all those older folks and anyone on a fixed income for whom a 20% property tax increase would be and will be incredibly burdensome. Burdensome even to the point that some may lose their homes through a share sale, for example. County raises going up and other expenses going up is certainly behind this potential harm to Madisonians. And I'm just here standing up for those folks. Please use prudence in the upcoming votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak this morning? Yes, Rachel.
Rachel Terhart, 2046 Adair Madison Avenue, Winterset. Just to be able to represent an email that my husband did send to the supervisors. I'm not sure if it came too late last night, you didn't see it.
I read it.
I wrote
Okay.
back.
Oh, okay, good. Well, just as he's not able to be here because of his, work hours, I just wanted to be able to represent our view as he did the writing for us. That he gave some perspective on the 2023 annual pay increases from someone himself who works in middle management in a large United States corporation. No corporations have any delusions about raising salaries such that they come close to keeping up with the inflation that we have experienced in America. The corporations are dealing with severe increases with the costs of raw materials primarily, and there's no responsible way to increase wages equal to inflation and remain solvent. There has also been the, quote, great resignation by many people deciding to leave their current company in search of a higher wage. That incidentally may be what is artificially affecting some data that is reporting large salary increases over the last year. My husband's words is that he can honestly report that his corporation has given a 3% salary wage increase to its employees. He says, I am all for giving deserving Madison County employees a wage increase. I can easily see a 3 to 4.5% adjustment. The wild numbers that I hear that are north of 5% are of great concern and seem to be out of line by any of the standards that I am aware of for 2023. I'm hoping that prudence and good judgment prevail when you come to making a decision. So that was the end of his letter, Brett Terhart. And just, I would add some comments that you might consider the precedent that gets set with this, whether or not that's sustainable. Money isn't just able to be printed, as has been said, it comes from us, it comes from the people. And so I appreciate all that's been said. And none of the businesses, just the private-owned businesses in this county are giving double-digit wage increases this year. So I'm not sure, really, I've not been paying as much attention, but I'm not sure how it ever devolved in a sense of an us versus them. I mean, we're your constituents, and the platform of the Republican Party is to be really guarding over the tax, effects on people. So I would urge you then to just consider, who you represent as the GOP and your constituents, and really reconsider this salary increase situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Anyone else wish to speak during your public comment portion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. I have an ambulance report. Here, I don't see him. All right, Dio, you're up.
All right.
Hi, Dale.
Okay, so, from Madison County Emergency Management Homeland Security, I don't know if I use the microphone, my voice carries pretty well. First and foremost, the anniversary of the March 5th tornadoes is upon us. It's Sunday. A lot of county first responders, volunteers went out and helped that day. So we're having a remembrance ceremony at New Bridge Church at 4 o'clock. So hopefully everybody in here who supports Sunday, March 5th.
Sunday.
So it's open to the public, so everyone who supports the county and tornado relief efforts, we'd like for you to come out there for that. It's a free meal. So it's really more of just talking about what happened that day and reflecting upon the next steps and just the growth of our community from that day. So I actually have this flyer that I programmed. I was going to pass along. I forgot to do that, but there you go.
Are they doing anything at panel?
So that's a great question. I met with Steve, who's the Lord of Panel Park. And we're going to
Congratulations.
we're going to put a display up near the Backbone Shelter at a later date. So the idea that we originally had was to put like a plaque, but it just made sense to put up a sign. So we're going to work together on that.
So, yeah, me and Dale and Matt, and it was first mentioned that we'd put up a sign or a plaque as a memorial. Our suggestion would be to put up a larger sign that would be more educational and which would talk about the tornado event, talk about the after effects of it, and then moving forward. So I would just like to turn it into more of an educational component with a memorial component instead of just being a memorial sign.
Yep. So, but we are going to have a plaque put together, and we'll put it somewhere. Obviously we'll talk with you guys. The plaque is officially put in the courthouse somewhere else, just another memorial space for that. So again, March 5th, Sunday at 4 o'clock, 4:30, we'll be the reading of the names of the people that were fortunately lost their lives that day, and then meal after that. So
It was 4:30 by the time the tornado hit.
this 4:35 is when it was reported, so we're going to do it at 4:30, 4:35 time frame. Just a couple quick things. Cybersecurity, tabletop at the hospital, as always, cybersecurity is a concern for myself and IT, so make sure that if you find a USB drive on the floor, don't put it in your computer. It seems like common sense, but you'd be surprised. So there's that. I'm working with the Homeland Security Grant Program to get 2 more mobile radios for schools in the event of any sort of issue. They can reach out to the sheriff's office through that communication. So that's in process. The CO2 pipeline, I talked with Ryan and the other Ryan, the 2 Ryans, about that, the emergency preparedness part of that. So we're going to work together on that side of it. And April 6th, for those of you who are weather spotter people that should not go out and look at tornadoes, but if you feel the need to, there's a spotter training on April 6th here at 6 p.m. by the Weather Service, so you can become spotter certified. So the event you are outside and looking at tornadoes, you can let people know where it's at. And that helps people like myself to find out what's going on. So that's my report.
Neil, thank you very much. I'd encourage everybody on Sunday, if you can't attend the event, give pause to remember that day. It's one that most of us will never forget.
Dio, thanks for the cybersecurity class you held.
Yep. Yeah, but it's important, I guess, for the community is at large, any sort of disaster preparedness, things like that for your churches or groups, let me know.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to resolutions. Our first resolution is the county attorney resolution approving to publish notice to fill county attorney vacancy by appointment pursuant to Iowa Code Section 69.14A. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I heard Heather
That's
first.
good. I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, pose same sign. Motion carries. Next resolution is approving assigning Assistant Deputy Andrew Schoenhoven as the acting county attorney.
So moved.
Motion from Diane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose
Aye.
same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have a secondary roads resolution approving a work agreement for Madison County Secondary Roads and Robert Gwynn and Monica Baumgartner. Discussed that earlier, pretty standard pipe replacement. Have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion from Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is a secondary road resolution for a wage adjustment for Jason Heimdall to 2509 as a truck driver because he's reached the end of his probationary period. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is a supervisor resolution approving up to $1,400 to be paid to the invitation to quality application process out of American Rescue Funds. Tom, I didn't know exact numbers offhand, but was the development group put in a grant for, you know the numbers.
Well, the total projected bill and not to exceed number was $8,500. We had $7,100 left over from a grant that we're going to apply to this, to the development group. And this then would be the difference between $7,100 and $8,500.
So we're just making up to make up to the
To
85.
make up that
Okay.
little slice in between,
Yeah, this
yes.
is a grant that the development group got a couple years ago to
Couple-
study
yeah.
broadband, and then since the partnership entered into that, it cost much less than anticipated,
Yeah.
so the funds were there, so.
So we had some leftover funding and wanted to utilize it, and this was the governor's step to set up the intent to qualify or invitation to qualify. So nothing's going to happen unless we're qualified. So
All right.
So is that some, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So does that mean, we're gonna be addressing areas in our county where they think we're okay, but they're really not?
that can, we know, for example, that as we look at East Peru, that is shown on the map as being qualified or being covered. And that is simply that was an untrue statement by Windstream.
It was, well, yes, it was untrue. We'll leave it at that.
For purposes, they would call it untrue.
Yes,
So yeah, I mean
okay.
they're looking at those things too, and unfortunately, it seems as though East Peru is going to have to come in and say, look, we object, and there's going to be a way, once those areas are discovered, to do an official objection.
So, I spoke to the state about this, and they said that there's a process for objection, and they recommended, apparently you can do it online, but if you can't get online because you don't have internet, I tried to explain that to them.
You have to drive to the top of the hill in the cemetery to do
Right,
it, yeah.
so I asked for a paper copy, and I spoke to Chris about this, the mayor, and with the idea of going door to door and handing them out to people, gathering together, and then one person be assigned to deliver them to the state, because they said it has to be an official person that delivers it, or the individual person has to mail it themselves. So I don't know where that went. I gave her that document. It's probably outdated by now, but is that something you can work with her on to kind of coordinate?
I will call her and see where that's gone to, yeah.
Okay.
It is very clear, every residence, every location in that town is shown as covered, or
Correct.
as
And
having,
it's not.
it's not.
You could really go to each door with your cell phone. No
Yes.
coverage, no coverage.
Yes. But they
Tom.
need, the state needs their paperwork, you know, the official paperwork.
Realistically, even if some company says, we will take it there, will it work? Because like Chris drives up to the top of the hill and stands on her pickup. I mean,
Well, not all broadband is wireless. Obviously, where they're at, wireless would be a lot easier, or I should say, it'd be less expensive than, say, pulling fiber there. Now, I know you can go probably from the south part with fiber, but they would still probably need some blasting.
yeah,
Because but from wireless, that's a completely different animal. They probably have to have multiple towers there to take care of it, because they're in the holler there.
surrounded with limestone.
Correct.
There's a geography problem there.
There is,
Yeah.
yeah,
Top of
It's certainly
the
challenging.
it is.
All right. Yeah, Sarah, did I ask for a motion on that yet? Okay, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Heather, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Diane, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this point, let's consider the treasurer's resolution to allow Amanda DeVos to open and maintain bank accounts.
So
Have a motion to approve. A motion from Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is a supervisor resolution to approve a 24-month contract service agreement renewal with Shred Secure Solutions. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Diane. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is supervisor resolution awarding the bid for the panic button security system to Secure Tech Systems for the amount of $42,640. Can I add that that's to be paid out of the American Rescue Plan?
It is on the resolution.
On the resolution, okay.
Yeah, it is on the resolution.
All right, that said, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Heather, is there a second? I will second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion? If not, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Oh, I'll say aye.
Aye is in favor, or aye is no? You gotta be
Speak up.
clear.
Let's clarify this before we go any further.
Let's
Was that yes
clarify.
or no?
It's okay, you can move forward.
That's a
with
yes,
it.
okay,
Okay.
all right. All in favor? Motion carries.
That's why we need clarification.
Should probably do roll call votes going forward.
No,
All right.
No.
The next resolution is a zoning office resolution approving the Scarlet Sunset Ridge subdivision. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Heather, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Diane, is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And it won't move forward until the driveway's all fixed.
Correct.
Got it.
All right, motion carries. Next, we have an application to approve an annual liquor license for Obiet Enterprises, which would be Big Rack Brew House. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion from Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. All right, board member reports since our last meeting.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I had my annual CCOG meeting, thanks Tom. Here, we hold it we had it in Winterset. The mayors attend, CCOG new director. It was a very different meeting than we're used to. We attended a assessors meeting. I had a meeting with the district court judge because I'm on the 5th Judicial District, and he's going to come and meet with me, but he's just over the clerks and things of the court systems. I also attended an all-state 5th Judicial State meeting. There was a lot of controversy. The state would answer absolutely no questions. Quite a few supervisors walked out. They want to centralize nearly everything in government. They want to get rid of a lot of middle government, and it's moving very quickly. It sounds good, but some of this isn't broken. Some of the, like Fort Des Moines actually works. People are rehabilitated and go back and really do well. And they're kind of trying to get rid of all that, and it's come with some really strong opposition from the counties that do it really well.
Is that part of the governor's restructuring?
It is, and I did
thing?
write to our senator, and they do have reservations that it's moving very quickly, and maybe without some real long thought into what this might do, it's going to take away all local control. And there is some real concern, and there were some very opinionated supervisors. I also worked with the legislators, and I rewrote Iowa House File 280, and I rewrote Iowa Code for them. And they copied it almost exactly like I wrote it. It passed 95-0. This will allow, in case of catastrophic events such as natural disasters, we lost our tornado. We even lost the scale, or lost our tornado, lost our landfill. We have nothing left. So I requested $1 million no interest loan, which I received. And then it's going to be hard for us to pay it back because we have nothing. So I rewrote Iowa code to ask to receive up to 5 million, no interest, the first million being forgivable. And that passed, so now it'll go to the Senate floor.
The
What's-
Senate or
what's-
House approved
The House
it?
approved
House
it.
approved it.
What's that?
95 to nothing.
What's the House file? Do you have that?
280, you want it?
No, I'll just look it up.
Okay, it's House File 280, and it passed. So that will help because our machinery is destroyed, the fuel was destroyed, we have no buildings, we're starting absolutely from scratch. And I have great concern, and I did convey this and I wrote a bunch of bullets. The statement was made, and it was kind of off the cuff, but we don't really need a landfill. We have a lot of really deep ditches in this county.
Yeah, at least some
So-
people think that's where they put
They
the
do,
trash.
so we really do need the landfill. So that's what I've been doing, and I
Roseanne,
have,
thank you for that. That's,
Yeah.
oh, you're
that's
welcome,
impressive. I
sure.
hope that continues to get through.
Did you, did Senator Sinclair, did you talk to her about that? Is she gonna try to, she's the president of the Senate, is she gonna try to push that through?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it's so, like we were talking, Amy and I, this is probably a real good, because it's a 1 in a million. I mean,
Yeah, it's
when
never-
does
Yeah.
happen, so, and it's so catastrophic, and landfills are so highly technical and really, and there are very few in Iowa, less than 50. Most of them are just transfer stations.
For
And-
all the tornado expenses we absorbed ourselves, it'd be nice to have a little
Yeah.
something.
A little
And
bit,
it'll protect other counties that, if they ever have to go through the same thing.
yes.
Excellent. Heather, what do you have to report on?
Well, I'll dovetail on legislative stuff since you ended with that. I spent a couple days up at the Capitol today talking to this past week, talking to legislators about the CO2 pipeline bills. There's 5 bills in the Senate. There's one bill that passed House subcommittee. And then they introduced another one in the Senate yesterday that actually was in subcommittee but got tabled. So there is a lot of movement on this. There seems to be, I spoke to Senator Sinclair yesterday, I met with her yesterday. The sense is they'll probably pass something that has to do to protect landowners from harassment and trespass. She doesn't know about the feeling of whether or not to protect them from eminent domain. It may pass the House, the one that's in the House right now, it's a 90-10. So you have to have 90% voluntary easements before they can even go to seek eminent domain. They also have some harassment protections. She says if anything passes in the Senate, that would probably be the bill that does, but she doesn't have a sense of what they want. They're very weary about passing something like that because they don't want it to impact the other pipelines that actually do serve a public purpose, gas and
And have been there forever.
yeah. So, that's where that, and then I also met some of them with, there's several property tax bills in play right now. And there's a lot of talk about property taxes. So there's a few in the Senate, there's a few in the House. Some have made through subcommittee, some have not. So that's still a ball in the air right now. I know that, now that school choice is kind of done, they're really focusing on property taxes.
Are you getting the feeling that the state will cap property?
Yes.
And we will be hamstrung, it'll cap us?
There is support for capping. Senator Sinclair said that she supported capping. However, they don't know what that cap is. Because currently, right now, many counties are already over the cap that they're talking about, that they're tossing around right now. So, I don't see where they're gonna go with that. There's no sense of that. So there's a lot of very passionate discussions on both sides of the aisle and in both chambers. So yeah, I was trying to go up there to kind of get a feel for that, so we can know what to expect, since we were kind of surprised with this recent bill that passed, that we're gonna have to redo stuff, and they extended out the time frame until April for us. So that's that, and then I met with the executive director of Iowa Workforce. We had a chat about that. The several Northwest counties have already pulled out of Iowa Workforce. And the main reason is that, we're really not getting a lot of benefit. Why are we taking on the liability if we're not getting a lot of benefit? And So the fear is that other counties will file suit, like, why are we doing all this work? It's not benefiting our people, and yet we're taking on all the liability if something nefarious happens, someone steals money.
Are you
So-
feeling that this is moving very quickly, that there will be a day that there will be in districts and we'll have very little control? I mean, you're losing Iowa workforce. That was my first board. It was it was a terrible meeting. I mean, supervisors waving their fists furious because they wanted one central workforce. That wouldn't work if you lived up in Sheldon, Iowa.
Right.
It was taking all control away, and I think it's deteriorating.
Well, the issue that they're talking about is they have no economies of scale.
Right.
So you want local control, but then, like for instance, a smaller county is not gonna have the same amount of money to support their services as, say, Polk. Well, if you regionalize it, you're gonna have some more economies of scale. So they're still working through that, and again, I'm coming in new, so I don't have all that baggage in the background. So I had a very frank discussion with him. I said, if you cannot show us the benefit for us to have this, I'm not comfortable taking on liability as a county if someone does something they shouldn't. So anyway, it was a good conversation, more to come on that. We had another MPO meeting. Again, that's just we have no vote, just to hear what they're doing and kind of figure out if there's any grants we can try to grab. Assessors meeting, Matura, trying to get my arms around that. They did agree to take over supporting the general assistance. They just need to find out how we want to do it. Do we want them to do everything? We pay them a stipend and they pay out of that stipend, or they just do the paperwork and then submit a warrant to Shelley and then she cuts the check. I sent a request to Shelley asking what she'd prefer, what she wants. I want to make sure before we put anything else on her that.
If we cut the checks, the timing on that gets drawn out. We don't cut checks every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I know there's.
Think they should.
Or if mature, if you cut the checks, we could fund that maybe on a.
I'm okay
periodic
either way.
basis.
I think they should.
I'm okay
See what
either
Shelley
way.
says.
The issue is we want to make sure we have, maybe if we do that, get quarterly reports so we can
Right.
provide some oversight.
Yeah.
So either way, I haven't heard back from Shelley on that. The other thing is too, the LEA reports. Those are the reports that go to the state regarding the DHS line that's at public health. Under Iowa code, we are responsible for that for whatever reason. CICS has been doing it forever, but technically that is a county responsibility. And the line's been down for a long
The
time.
irony of that is it's such a small
Isn't
small amount,
DHS going to
and we do
research?
what's that report cost? We have to do to break out the percentage, just like $3,000 report. And I don't know what we get out of it, but
Well,
it's not very much.
Well, no, but the thing is, under Iowa code, we're required to provide them space and a phone line.
Okay.
So we really have no choice here. So but if we take it on now, we have to add in whoever's gonna be doing it, their cost of their time, any kind of maintenance, cost of Jen's time, because no one seemed to know a lot about this line, and, cause it's been down apparently for months.
It's all in Dallas County anyway.
Aren't they
Really?
going to restructure DHS and put it in with, that's going to change, isn't it?
I
It's
don't
a-
know, but right now,
Likely.
we
It
still
is.
have to apply, we have to obey Iowa code, and under Iowa code, we are required to find space, supplies, and phone.
But who are they gonna send down?
From what I understand from Susan, they send a social worker down to meet with people, once a week, or.
And she doesn't have a space now? We have.
They have a space, they have a
Well, see,
dedicated
this
space
LEA
now.
is the report that we fill out, this designates what percentage of the county's assets are used for
Yeah.
And then the
for
state pays
this,
us
and then
back.
we get
Yeah.
reimbursed. But by the time you go through the process and the report and whatnot, it's almost a wash.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to figure out is, when I wanna sit down with Shelley on this, once we figure out how we're gonna handle the other general assistance, is kind of figure out, are the reports correct? should we amend them? Do we need to add things, subtract things? Because, and then who's gonna do the reports every quarter? So, or every month, I don't even know if it's every month yet, so
We'll continue to work on
Have
it.
you talked to Tracy?
I haven't talked to Tracy, I kinda wanna I wanted to get my arms around this first and talk to Shelley before we reached out with, cause right now, I don't think Ventura does the LEA reports for any other county.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's a
They
different
just do
area.
the general assistance.
is one thing.
So we would have to have somebody from our county do the LEA reports and just kind of monitor this. Again, flying blind, I had no idea, they just handed a folder with the information, and I made calls to the state to find out what is this for, why are we doing it? So, but I wanted to get you guys, let you guys know that this is what's going on, and we have to do this, we have no choice. So, I think it's silly, considering Dallas County already does it, they're not that far, but Iowa code says every county has to provide it, so.
Anything else, Heather?
Nope, we'll talk about the ordinance for chapter 60 when we get to that.
I'm looking at my meetings for the last 2 weeks, most of them on Thursday, and apparently we always get snow or ice on Thursdays around here. But on the 16th, I had an aging resource meeting. Noteworthy in that. I guess my current situation, I'm becoming more engaged in that, becoming a consumer on that. I also had a DCAT meeting, and DCAT is the organization of Madison, Warren, and Marion counties that deals with child welfare. Very interesting because it's smaller. You know, so many of the boards we sit on have so many counties, you don't really feel what's going on. That being only 3 counties, you actually feel like you have a handle on what's going on.
So what is it for?
It's child welfare, just like to help kids in crisis, that type of thing.
Do you know what I've learned? I don't want to hone in on you, but being on the 5th judicial, that there is nothing in this state for girls. There's no real housing or anywhere for girls.
Yeah, this isn't really from the criminal element, it's more
This
of
is
a
for the,
assistance type thing. They do a lot of things with the local schools and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
I had a HERDA meeting on the 23rd. Looks like we're finally gonna be able to get some buses. We've been approved for buses for like 18 months and they just weren't available in the pipeline, so.
Ours are really old, aren't they?
Yeah, and we're also working on right sizing our fleet because we've got more buses than what we need. Some of them are quite dated, but the way it works, like, well, you're eligible to have 60 buses, so you have 60 buses, like, well, if we could get by with 40 buses, if you'd let us restructure a little bit and right size our fleet, maybe instead of having the bigger buses, and they are gonna get some more like Ford Transit vans, a little bit smaller vehicles, so be a little more efficient and whatnot. And I had a CICS meeting on the 23rd. I shared some photos with you of the YSS building that's coming along. That's interesting, exciting to be involved with that project. Can't wait to see that open up here. It won't be until 24, but that's good news on that. That's reports on the meetings that I've had. Any old business? Any new business? I mentioned in our study session that the walk-in freezer at the meal site is kind of on its last legs, and they would like to install a new one that would kind of encroach in on what was the old ambulance garage, and if we were to allow that, they would seek funding for the walk-in freezers. So I'll just
Can they
encourage you
get
to-
one that maybe a restaurant gets closed?
I don't know, she's working on funding for that, but right now she's asking us about the space, so if you get a chance in the next couple of weeks, pop out there. 23 priorities, we have a construction meeting coming up at 11:30, I guess unless you have anything you want to say about courthouse
No, we'll
project.
wait till the meeting.
Comp plan revision, what's the update on that?
no meeting scheduled yet, but we should be having one shortly.
Excellent.
How are they, do you know where they're coming, or you're just waiting for the meeting?
Just wait for
So
them.
they'll present
They'll present,
something to you at the time?
yeah.
Ordinance review and update, chapter 60 general assistance program.
So, since we are, taking over ownership of the general assistance again from CICS, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to review chapter 60, of our ordinance that governs general assistance to make sure we still like it, if we wanna make any changes, if it truly supports, our priorities as a county, and go over that as a board, cause this would be an opportunity to do that. Right now, according to the reports that Christy provided and my conversation with her, is they pretty much just do rent and utilities. And the main reason, and they do referrals, so if they need food, they send them to the food bank, you know, so they're pretty much
Kind of the funder of last resort.
correct. So, so that's why if you look at our reports, all of the assistance was rent or utilities, because there are thankfully other entities in our county that can provide assistance, so the county taxpayer does not have to. So I'm wondering if we want to think about, like, removing some things, that currently are on here but are not being utilized, for instance, transportation, medical, funeral. So the transportation, it's, cannot exceed maximum 20 gallons in fuel vouchers, does not include car repairs, medical, can be up to $1,000, dental could be $200, funeral up to $750. So these are things that we allow in our ordinance but are not being utilized, and I'm wondering if this is something we might have we wanna pare down our general assistance. Because the code, I looked at the code, all we're required to do is provide services for the poor. It leaves to our discretion kind of how we wanna do that. So I just wanna get your thoughts on it. What do you think?
And this was one of the first things Christy did when we brought her on board. And she did a complete overhaul of this and really cleaned it up a lot because it was very gray prior to this. So my thoughts on it is that she did a great job in what she revised in 2020. And if we don't fund it, we don't fund it, but it's there if needed. I think having mature being the point on this makes a lot of sense, because a lot of the things that Christy was doing was saying, have you been to mature? Have you been here? And we're kind of trying to find the other alternatives, which is way it's designed to be, that we're the funder of last resort. And it must be working, because we're not having to fund a great deal, but it's still there as that safety net, where we control a little bit. We probably control it in the budget process and how much we allocate towards that. I think it's working pretty well. If Mature is gonna take that on, my initial thoughts on it was we should give them some seed money. I don't know what that dollar amount is, a couple $1,000 or something like that. And then they can report quarterly, say of that 2,000, we've expended 1,500 and maybe replenish 1,500.
Okay.
If, or whatever, however that number might look like. That might be that way they could issue the funds quicker than we could if we had to issue a warrant for them and approve them and all that.
What if they
And we'd
need
have a
more?
handle on
Do
it.
they come back and ask
I
us?
suppose they could come back and ask for more, but I mean, that's kind of a little bit of a moving target, but then we could receive a report when they needed to replenish their coffer. And maybe it's when they need to replenish it. You know, you give them X amount of money and say, okay, when you get down to $500 left, give us a report of how you spent the last 1,500, and then we can approve replenishment.
So we give them 1,500, they spend none. Do we recall it and then give them back 1,200 the next
Well, we
year?
budget this annually as part of our budget
I
process.
know, so I'm wondering, how do we recall?
So like if we budget, say, $8,000.
I wouldn't give
they
them the
would-
whole 8,000.
No,
No.
just budget the 2 per
Yeah.
quarter.
Or just,
And then
here's
if they
2,
don't-
when you use it, show us what you did, come back for more.
Okay, rather than
Does that
giving
seem
them,
to be a?
Well, I would probably allocate the at quarterly.
But
And
if they're not
they
using,
don't
like
use
Heather
it,
said,
it rolls over into the next quarter.
but do we
but Heather said if they're not using it, why continue to fund it?
Well, don't, just roll, if you give them 2,000, they don't use it, it rolls over to the next quarter. And
Right,
they don't use it
right,
at the
but
end of
they-
the year, you recall it and start over. maybe.
Yeah, but you'd have it there, and then as that grows down, then they can request more.
Right, so they could, so what I hear you saying is, if the first quarter they give them 2, if they don't spend 2,
We don't give
it rolls into the second quarter,
Yes.
do we give them another 2 on top of
No,
that, or just?
no.
If
Okay.
when that
Nope.
initial 2,000 gets down to like 500 or something like that, then they submit, this is how we spent the last $1,500, we've requested to replenish our coffers.
Then you could
Okay.
allocate that.
That would seem to
yeah,
be
yeah.
efficient for those that need it, and
So are you guys good
Reasonable.
with a quarterly report then, or do you want a monthly report?
No, quarterly.
quarterly.
Because
is
what I
fine.
like to do when we finalize this, I wanna get a policy written in
Yeah,
place.
I think quarterly is fine, it kind of depends, you know, if they have a month where they expend it all, well, probably they have to request funds sooner, so maybe it's at least quarterly
At least quarterly,
And if-
or as needed.
or as needed.
Then it won't take you long to see how it flows, I don't think.
No,
You'll see.
okay,
That seems to be efficient and seamless and reasonable all at the same time.
okay. So what I'm hearing is you're okay with the ordinance as it is, you don't wanna make any changes?
She did change it a lot.
She did.
There-
No, I understand that.
Those
I'm
are,
saying-
that's the real pared down.
Yeah, so you're okay with us still funding or having open to fund transportation, medical and funeral? And then, cause I'm gonna go to Matura and give this proposal. So we're gonna propose, we're gonna stipend you quarterly, and then, if, as needed, you
I
provide.
wouldn't even say
report-
it's quarterly, because if you give them $2,000, they don't
They
spend
don't
it, we're not
use
gonna
it.
give them $2,000 the next.
Okay,
They make
No,
so
them,
we'll
I'm
just
not
start out
pulling
with the
that
seed
number out,
money,
but-
whatever it is.
Yes.
give them the 2,000, and then if they don't request it in the next quarter, they can't show you in their report that they've spent it, then you're not going to give
Okay.
it to them.
And when that 2,000 gets drawn down to 500, request
Okay.
first.
Then they can request more.
Okay, so I'll just tell them that we're interested in doing a stipend as opposed to a warrant for reimbursement. And then, I'll work with the auditor's office on how they would like to fund that, see that, and then I'll get with Matura, cause I know, Betsy's very anxious to hand off
Yeah.
that. And I told her, I said, my goal is to have it done by the end of March to where we're doing
I see
it.
why that came out.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right,
Okay.
thank you. Anything else?
No,
If not, can I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Motion by Diane, is there a second?
Second,
Second from Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
aye.
Aye, pose same sign, motion carries, we are adjourned, thank you, everybody.